Hello, hello, welcome, finally. Excuse me. Yes, this is still happening. I was delayed for yesterday for my power going out, and then today I had something come up in the earlier afternoon. A little bit of an emergency situation. Nothing really super terrible, but just couldn't get the stream started at the time that I wanted, but we're here now. Something like that, Carol. Not too far off. Anyway, as I adjust my mic here, it's probably kind of loud for you guys. Apologies about that. Let's get started on some Warhammer 2 replays. Without further ado, I know you guys have been waiting and a little bit delayed on the content over the weekend. Again, there was supposed to be a stream yesterday. Saturday, I was going to take off regardless, but we'll get the action started today with Ethereon's High Elves. He's got Lithanar and a Mage of Fire, along with a Lore Master of Hoeth, a Spearman, couple Spearmen, couple Silver Guard, couple Archers, couple Lothard Seaguard with shields. We've got Frostheart Phoenix, that's right. Gotta remember all the names here for these things. And hang on. Here we go. Yes, you can see the deployment here. Got the Tyrannok Chariots ready to go. Tyrannok Chariots pretty solid. They do have magic damage, and kind of an underrated unit overall, in my opinion. But yeah, Silver Helms as well. As for the Wood Elves, this is definitely a very interesting matchup. Pretty even on both sides, I would say. And it's one of those matchups where both sides have some pretty good tools here. Generally, it's considered to usually be in High Elves' favor, ever so slightly. But anyway, I've got Deepwood Scouts here. I've got Dryka. You saw already the Arrows of Kurnos coming out from the Waystalker. I've got Eternal Guards with shields, Blade Guards with Starfire Shafts, Blade Riders out on the far side as well. So Lithnar's a decent enough choice here. He can start picking away. But at 300 range, he probably wants to... Oh, this is actually the decoy. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Take the damage on the decoy. Keep Lithnar back for the time being. Lithnar at 180 range, or sorry, 300 range, outranges even the Waystalker significantly, right? He's literally an artillery piece, so he can sit far back out of range of any of these units and just kind of pick away at them as long as he can screen forward with the rest of his forces. Right now, Lithnar's Doppelganger eating a bunch of shots, which is exactly what you would want. The decoy, you know, obviously does cost a little bit of gold to take, but eating all that damage as value is pretty good. So, both players are just going to kind of stand and shoot for a moment, as to be expected. Elves versus elves are going to have a little bit of a bow battle here. So, getting close as shots land. Oh, yeah. Thankfully, the High Elves and Spearmen do have a pretty good missile block chance. Silver Guard even. 75 armor means they will take some significant damage. Deepwood Scouts have pretty good AP, but not the best AP in the world. Meanwhile, Tyrannok Chariots come over here. They're going to pull away the Dark Riders from the rest of the formation. Put them in a position where the Silver Helms and the Frostheart can potentially clean them up. So nice little bait and switch there. We'll fast forward through this initial skirmish phase, as both these players are content to just sit back and use their ammunition. It's definitely the right call. Looks like one model for the Tyrannok Chariot couldn't have gone down. It's full health. It was just stuck in the woods there for a second. That's fine. Tyrannok Chariot still kind of wheeling around, wheeling, dealing, shooting some multi-shot bows. Gets a little bit of a heal there from the Lore Master of Hoeth. Just has Earthblood. So looking for infantry support and healing, but again, just continuing to shoot away. The Deepwood Scouts are definitely going to feel the effects of that. Sometimes your battles can go like this if both players bring shooting-focused armies, and I mean, I would say for an Aryan here, it may be worth it to just try and clean up in melee, but Dryka gets dived by the Frostheart Phoenix, already taking quite a bit of damage probably from Lithnar's bows there. A little bit of a Dryad summon as the spear lines sort of clash here, start wet noodling each other. Suffering Guard should be able to win just because they're great stats. But the other Spearmen will be a little bit more of an even trade, just kind of back and forth. These Eternal Guards waiting nicely, just allowing the Silver Helms to completely bypass them. And this Pit of Shades is a little bit too far outside. Like, I understand you don't want to hit your own friendly units, but really, if he had waited just a little bit longer on that Pit of Shades, he could have probably popped it on these two archers together right here. Or, you know, maybe just take Penumbral Pendulum because it's more cost-effective anyway. But we'll see. The Glade Riders whipping up and around the flank here, along with those Glade Riders with shields. Here comes Stag Knights. Wow, I didn't even see these guys. Regiment of Renowned Stag Knights. There's a Flaming Sword of Ruin then popped here, though, from the lore of Firecaster. So everything gets fire damage, and the Lothern Sea Guard actually end up wrecking this elite Ghost Cavalry here. Of course, the Phoenix also came in, got some pretty good splash attacks. It has bound magic damage, so even once that Flaming Sword of Ruin's gone, we'll be able to deal with the Great Stag Knights just fine. But the Lost Sylvan Knights now routing. Even still, bounce power is pretty close. There's a strong presence of Wood Elven Archers still. And Lithnar is quite low. He did pull up his excuse me, decoy once again. And so the decoy is going to be eating a few more shots here. A lot of the Wood Elves are just about out of ammunition, so if Lithnar can survive a little bit longer, maybe eat one more Earthblood, he should be able to stay in the fight, but we'll see. Meanwhile, Draika hanging well back out of harm's way. And the Stag Knights getting in there. Nice little charge. Here come the Glade Riders as well. You might get one or two in the Emperor. We'll see. But Phoenix is going to dive in here. Again, just trying to take out the Great Stag Knights. Gets a splash attack there. Fells a couple of the Glade Riders. Stag Knights still have some models. Yeah, 9 models still online there, so that is substantial. And the rest of the Elven army, the High Elven army in the center is kind of evaporating, right? I mean, Wood Elves have pretty much used up all their ammunition left, so whatever Arian has left here is going to have to fight those archers probably in melee in order to finish this, but let's see. Heart Phoenix coming in definitely doesn't have any kind of chilling aura or effect to slow down these Lost Sylvan Knights, but the terror is enough to get rid of the Glade Riders. He also manages to catch up a few models of the Stag Knights, allows them to get rear charged by those Silver Helms. So again, just pin a couple of the Stag Knights up against the Phoenix, then allow him to get an attack. If he will get an attack, he may not actually, just get staggered. Yep, Spaldy's about being a little under the weather, guys. Classic Dom, being slightly late. Yeah, only like 3 hours late. Let's call it what it is. Only like 2.5 hours late, right? Anyway, one nice thing though, late game Tyrannok Chariot can help run over a lot of these Wood Elven Archers. Unfortunately, their bows are out of ammunition. Again, they deal magic damage. Oh no, they still have 7 shots left. Okay, so as this Lost Sylvan Knights kind of chase here, the Tyrannok Chariots can shoot them and possibly deal some damage. Yeah, you see one model got felled there by the Tyrannok Chariot bows. I have to say, it's one of the better uses I've seen of Tyrannok Chariots in recent memory. Using their magical bow fire to apply pressure in the late game to this very expensive cavalry unit. They're able to fell a few models there, so pretty impressive stuff. Now their melee prowess can be used to good effect against all of this infantry. With the Lost Sylvan Knights going down without any terror, it's going to be much tougher for the Wood Elves. Draika is just not really in a position to do anything at this point, hanging well out of fight. Lost Sylvan Knights, though, they got one more model. Probably going to lose that. At this point, the Chariots and the Frostheart Phoenix can effectively cycle charge. Silverhelm's also moving in. One final cavalry engagement. They've got the spear support that they need to try and win against Glade Riders with spears here. Certainly the armor will make a pretty substantial difference. Of course, the spears as well, even though the Silverhelms might actually end up routing here. Yeah, we'll see. But, ooh, here we go. 2v1. The Waystalkers actually have good enough stats to fight the Lore Master, believe it or not. I mean, he's 57-55, they're 55-45. So 2v1 here, this should be okay for them, as long as he doesn't finish off any one model too quickly. They should be able to probably win here, but it looks like he does kind of toss that one. And then the Phoenix is going to come in and even up the fight, so the High Elves should be able to now win this. And there's a small chance Lore Master could have won it by himself, but definitely with the Phoenix coming in, getting some terror routes, rear charges, that'll spell the end for the Waystalkers. This one Tyrannok Chariot just absolutely marauding through. Here comes the other one. Oh yeah. We don't have the best mass. They're decent enough stats, Tyrannok Chariots. 55 charge bonus, 40 weapon strength. They do come with martial prowess, although it has already been dropped. Let's see. Oh man, the Lore Master actually just gets surrounded by archers here and routes due to leadership. The Phoenix is also very, very close to routing, so all that's left is these units here. Everything else is being chased off. The Fire Mage, man, there's just so much Wood Elven infantry left. I don't know if the Tyrnok can really carry against all this, especially without any support units. The Glade Riders come in. They actually rout the Tyrnok chariot. That's not great. And I believe, will it shatter? No, it does come back from rout, which is pretty important. Again, the Lore Master of Hoeth just going to grind and melee a little bit here. As long as the Phoenix fights with it, should do okay. But no, the Azrai Spear pretty quickly. The Glade Guards, rather. No, Eternal Guards, come on. I know what I'm talking about. Their anti-large AP is just enough to deal with the Phoenix there. But, oh no, the Pit of Shades comes in. Lore Master's going to rout, and that will be the game. So Ethereal almost managed to pull home a win on that one. But it wasn't quite enough at the end of the day. Yeah, Lothar and Seaguard, one of them does perform quite well. The other, it's interesting, you know, the speed debuff of having the shield, I'm not sure 100% is worth the matchup. Definitely nice to have a shield against counter fire shooting, but again, I don't know if it ends up being absolutely worth it. Sometimes I wonder if it's just better to go with more volume here. But the archers both do pretty decently. Tyrnok chariots pay for themselves. Honestly, I think you maybe could have gone with like additional Tyrnok chariots here. Maybe, I don't know. I like the combination of the one Tyrnok chariot with the Silver Helm, even though the Silver Helm didn't do a lot. I do feel you can use them as cavalry endurance, but yeah, Lithnar does a pretty decent job. Lore Master of Hoeth, even though he got some heals off, I still don't know if he ended up being worth it either. Hard to say. From Mr. Duels here, I mean, Dryka definitely got punished pretty hard, but Waystalkers are just so strong right now, like tripling their value pretty much in terms of their return. Deepwood Scouts also do a pretty good job, as do the Glade Guards. If they can use up all their ammunition, they're almost always bound to pay for themselves. Lost Sylvan Knights got hard wrecked by the Tyrnok Chariots, by the Phoenix, by Flaming Sword of Ruin, so I mean, High Elves are sometimes thought of as a faction that you can take Ethereals against because they don't have the best magic damage tools in the world, but Ethereon came in with a build that was prepared for the Lost Sylvan Knights, absolutely. Just, you know, didn't quite have enough mobile volume pressure to shut down all these archers, and it ended up proving pretty decisive, so fun one. I'm so sorry, Lux. You should have invited your date to watch my stream with you. Yeah, there you go. Because that's what your date wants to watch, I'm sure. Anyway, awesome one. Nice way to start out with some elf slaughter. I definitely love that. Let's continue on with some elf slaughter. Got Consul of Rome with Bretonia versus probably non-English character name playing as the Dark Elves, with a ranked-up Charybdis, which is a very interesting choice against Bretonia. It is anti-large, technically, but generally the Knights can do a pretty good job of dealing with it. Of course, got Marathi, the Spearman, one Halberd, your Flying Crossbow Cav, which is an unusual pick, but they're okay, as long as they can stay away from Pegasus Knights. Scourge Runner Chariots are very good. They're probably meta in this matchup, to be honest. Still, Reaper Bolt Throwers as well. So, lots of anti-large, lots of AP. Has to be expected. For Bretonia, tons and tons of infantry. You've got 4 men-at-arms here, some pole arms as well, some spears out to the flanks, 3 archers, and 1 more spear in the back. A couple of mobs up front. We've got the Damsel of Life, Albric in the air, a Paladin also in the air. Hello. Hello. And yes, you spotted it. We've got Grail Knights over here. Grail Guardians, Questing Knights, and Knights of the Lion-Hearted. So, pretty intense heavy cavalry force over here, utilizing the woods, the jungle, I should say, a little bit to kind of block some of the shots of those Scourge Runner chariots. Albric and his paladin are like, oh, hey, there's this expensive Regiment of Renown flying skirmish cav. Let's just go kill one real quick. So that Raven's Herald meets his inevitable demise. Of course, in Warhammer 3, you'll be able to just land these units, which will put them at still some risk, but at less risk, certainly. You'll be able to protect them a little bit better. But the Marathi is also just staying far away from these two, which is probably smart. 2v1, especially with the anti-large of Albric, they should be able to deal with him pretty efficiently, but infantry fight's just about underway. For whatever reason, the bolt throwers on multi-shot going after the archers. I don't really understand that at all. Maybe, I mean, I guess they're trying to protect the bolt thrower itself from counter-archer fire, which is exactly what's happening, so maybe that's the point, but I would think you'd want to just try and chew off some models of this expensive cavalry first, rather than focus any attention on the archers just because they're so cheap. But here comes the Charybdis. Going to help push back some of the knights in the center. Knights Lionhearted don't want to stay in sustained combat there, obviously, so they're going to pull back. Western Knights and Men of Arms, though, come in and immediately break some Fear Spears. They've got the numbers as well to come up around the flank here. Even Peasant Mobs come back and shut down the artillery. Not that they need to, because, again, the archer fire here is enough to deal with that. Now, back over to this character fight. Looks like Morathi and Imrik did meet momentarily. Managed to do some damage to Old Mama. But the Scourge Runner Chariots are in a position to provide some counter Overwatch fire. The Repeater Crossbow Raven's Heralds also could turn around and get some shots, but choosing to instead stay moving and perhaps try and shoot some of these Rail Guardians or Knights of Lionhearted or whatnot. But the Charybdis is still holding just fine. Plenty of HP there, and the Blackguard are now making their way forward. Really nasty Soul Stealer manages to hit all the cavalry units in one go. I think maybe didn't quite hit Paladin or Imrik, which is unfortunate, but the Raven's Heralds are now in a position firing because these two are so hyper-focused on taking out Morathi. They have a position to just shoot down in here, and the question is, what are they going to be shooting? Hopefully high-value cavalry to try and shoot away some of their models. Same thing with the Scourge Runners here. Every model that you kill of this cavalry is another model that can't heal, right, from the Damsel. Of course, you could always just take out the Damsel herself. The Morathi drops down. That's going to probably force Imrik and the Paladin down onto the ground. No, it looks like they actually cancel the attack order. Instead, detach to go after the Raven's Heralds, at least momentarily. But with the help of the Charybdis, Morathi is going to be much safer dropping down onto the ground here, so she definitely wants to fight side by side with Big Fish Boy. Imrik, yeah, 2v1 here is going to be a little bit risky, especially with the Blackguard now in support, but he does bring in a really well-timed, well-placed wave that just does brutal damage to the Blackguard. A lot of people forget that AP was buffed on that at a certain point, and it is quite strong against, bunched up infantry units like that. Imrik also going to come in and provide that little bit of anti-large. Oh, but here comes a nice Pit of Shades. Good placement, although again, any pro player will tell you you just want to spam as many Soul Stealers as you can. Like, you had another pretty nice opportunity with the Cav Blob right here to put in another Soul Stealer. And the reason why is if you cast 5 Soul Stealers, you can get Morathi to her healing cap. And you do need to use all of your Winds of Magic in order to cast 5 Soul Stealers. Not to mention, of course, the damage, especially against the Cavalry faction like Bretonnia, would be pretty extreme, obviously. But I was only slightly late. Only slightly late, but yes. The Night Force comes back here to shut down the artillery once and for all. They were pretty much already shut down anyway, but this is a smart play, just isolating Fishboy and Morathi, killing off everything else first, and then going after them in the late game in order to break them on leadership is definitely the right call. I mean, these two could come in and definitely finish off this box, probably, especially with the support of the Knights. The Charybdis isn't necessarily going to be a big problem, really. But, why risk taking a bunch of unnecessary damage? Just stay going after the Scourge Runner Chariots. Although the Raven's Heralds do have an opportunity. If they could draw a bead on Imrik and get a nice volley in here, they could potentially do quite a bit of damage. The Paladin, sensing that, gonna go after them. I don't know what those peasant mobs are doing over there. They must have chased something off, but they're quite happy to be forgotten about, I'm sure. Yes. Another really nice Soul Stealer blob placement. Again, pretty much you just want to be spamming that as much as you can with Morathi. But better late than never. She's going to heal herself back up a little bit with that one, so the battle will stay close in terms of balance of power. We'll fast forward a little bit as Morathi makes a very risky drop. I have no idea what exactly she was thinking here, but she's now surrounded. Oh, I guess that's what she was thinking, forcing a little blob for a little Pit of Shades action, which is going to be okay. It's decent enough against cavalry, but again, I just think Soul Stealer would have been better. I mean, certainly you might get more damage out of this Pit of Shades here, but the Soul Stealer would have provided the self-healing as well. I don't know. Just a little bit of an odd choice, I think. Not that it's necessarily bad, per se. Placement was really excellent on that second one, but just, yeah. Gold-wise, you also save yourself some gold by not taking any other spells. Morathi already being a pretty expensive character, it is important to cost optimize, even though the Dark Elves are the cheapest of any of the elves. In general, they have a lot of pretty good cheap units, but you still need to try and cost optimize as much as you can. Anyway, Grail Guardians are going to be pulling away here, not wanting to fight the spears and the chariots and everything all together, but if Bretonnia could bring all their forces to bear, Albrecht providing that extra little bit of anti-large in an AoE, means these questing knights can come in and do some pretty good damage. Albrecht himself gets a charge on Morathi there. But Bretonnia doesn't want to overcommit to getting, you know, gooned in a big pitched melee fight. The further away they get from these Blackguard, the more they can kind of draw out these large units. The better it will be for them, obviously. But like now, the Scourge Runners overextend. Cavalry can turn around and get a charge. Start to get some attacks back. And again, with the extra anti-large of Alric, even the Grail Guardians will hit decently hard. Which they're definitely more known for their defensive stats. But, yes. We'll continue to fast forward as the Scourge Runner Chariot continues to pursue. Albrecht's going to go after Morathi again. Doesn't have too much HP. Paladin's back as well from chasing off the Raven's Heralds, or at least chasing them around. But Albrecht, interestingly enough, he is fast enough to actually catch Morathi. I think he's just that little bit faster. Yeah, 116 versus 105. So he can consistently catch Morathi, and then Cavalry comes in to try and finish cleaning up the ground force. There's pretty much just the Blackguard and the Charybdis, which, I mean, these two fighting on top of each other is a pretty scary prospect for Bretonnia. That's a lot of elite anti-large AP. Right? Yeah, that Pit of Shades was pretty decent, but I don't know. Morathi, like, being not even close to her healing cap at this point. If she were, that would make a pretty significant difference. But at this point, we've also got Halberds fighting here. Albrecht comes in. Knights Lionhearted. Rear charge from the Questing Knights and the Grell Knights to activate their charge bonus. Here comes another Soul Stealer from Morathi. So she at least did get 3 Soul Stealers, but not before she routed herself. So that's unfortunate. She may end up coming back, but I don't think that the Soul Stealer is enough of a heal, especially with Albrecht just lurking in the air here, in a position to try and chase her off. He really only needs to get like 1 or 2 attacks in order to finish her. Yep. And there's 1 attack potentially. So it's just the big fish boy now, along with Blackguards, which granted is a scary prospect, but the leadership is not likely to hold out much longer, especially once Morathi routes off the side. So Questing Knights charging straight into the Blackguard. Their AP will do them wonders in that situation. But this Charybdis is pretty nasty. It is definitely not going down without a fight. So let's get Albrecht back in action over here. Gonna wheel back around, try and rally his forces together. Albrecht plus the Paladin should be enough by themselves, but we'll see. I mean, I guess there are the Blackguards still involved here. It's 1 peasant mob is gonna finally get recognized, and sadly we'll have to throw in its unit models here in order to provide some extra bodies. But here comes the charge. Albrecht, a little bit of a heal as well, of course, hits Albrecht and the Paladin, keeping them nice and healthy in the fight. You can see some big burst damage comes down on the Charybdis, and that will pretty much be game as the leadership gives out on the Fish Boy. No, it actually holds, and the Blackguard are even holding themselves too. So who will win at the end of the day? Hard to say. Oh man, oh, it's just really not looking good for Dark Elves. Fish Boy eats another side charge there from Albrecht. 2 anti-large knights. Riding out for the lady. Yes. Man, Albrecht's such a cool character. Really a shame you don't see him more often, because he is quite strong, too. He's like a paladin lord, basically, right? But, anyway. Consul Rome there takes home the win. 4,000 damage value on Albrecht on a Pegasus. That is really impressive stuff, and I wonder how much of that just raw came from wave. Like, a good majority of the HP damage done to the Blackguard was from that wave. They didn't really take that much damage after that. Kind of hilarious, but Yeah, Peasant Mob allowing the rear charge. MLG late game Peasant Mob tactical reserve. Definitely for the win. Allowing Imrik and the Paladin to come in clean up. Paladin himself, 1400 damage value. Really, really good stuff there. The men-at-arms with polearms, one of them pays for themselves. They're pretty cheap, doesn't take too much. Also, almost 500 value for a men-at-arms with sword and shield. I mean, they get, you know, double rations for the day. Men-at-arms, sorry, the Peasant Bowmen do a pretty decent job. Not exactly sure the targeting on the bolt thrower going after the Peasant Bowmen. It didn't end up working anyway, so again, I would think you just want to chew off some models of these Cavalry first, but 100 kills, 1200 damage value on Grail Guardians. Considering they're more of a tank type unit, you don't necessarily expect them to deal a lot of damage. That is pretty impressive. Nonetheless, Knights Lionhearted and the other questing knights, again, none of the knights pay for themselves, but they do enough. Late game, the Charybdis probably pays for itself. Yeah, 2,000 points. And I actually, you know, I don't totally hate this. I think probably you need to maybe cut, like, the Raven's Heralds and one Bolt Thrower and just go a little bit wider here. Give you some more support units to the Charybdis. But I actually totally don't hate this in this matchup. Marathi also, pretty decent job. Good Pit of Shades there, kind of making me eat my words. But I almost wonder, you know, if those Pit of Shades had been Soul Stealers cast on the Cav Blob, would that have made a decisive difference in the endgame? Probably not, but perhaps. Perhaps. Right? Just add water. Yeah, I'm just picturing now, like, you have a little toy figurine Albrecht, and you put him in your bathtub, and then suddenly you have a full-size knight running around your house. Like, that would be awesome. Basically, generic legendary lord. Yes. I think he's cool. I love the Trident. I love the naval theme, even though they haven't leaned too heavily into it. I love his ability set. I'm a big fan of Albrecht, even if he is kind of boring, to be honest. But anyway, let's get on with another replay from the Emperor, this time against Human Boy, fellow YouTuber, so should be in for a grand old time. We've got Kazrak in a vanguard, probably, against the Skavenses, Lore of Shadows, and... what's his name? Wargor, that's right. Probably on a chariot also, but we'll see. Some Ungor Spearman herd, one regular Ungor herd, some Gore herds with shields, Ungor raiders, a couple of Centigors. Got Tuskor chariots, and one unit of Minotaurs. Regular dual hand weapon Minotaurs. Fairly unusual, but the anti-infantry should be decent here. For the Skaven army, wow, look at this. We've got Packmaster, Assassin, Lord Scroll, Skaven Slave Spears, Poisonwind Glows. We're going to be getting the action started already. Storm Vermin with Halberds. We've got some Wolf Rats, Rat Ogres, more Wolf Rats, more Rat Ogres, Skaven Slave Slingers, and the Council Guard. So, lots of stuff. And as expected, the Vanguard deployment means that we're just going to get straight into the action here. We're going to see some Plague from Scroll. Oh man, this is not a spell you see super often, but it is actually a pretty strong stationary vortex. That's going to do quite a bit of damage there. Already some nice counterpunch in the front line for the Skaven, but the Chariots now coming through. Tuskor Chariots making their presence felt. Likewise, Kazrak and the Wargor come in and just wreck this entire flank here. So lots of Skaven going to be rolled up. Huge splash attack damage. Triple character Chariot actually all over here. Very, very strong squad. And along with the Ungor Raiders, they're able to very quickly break this pocket. The Rat Ogres also, the Ungor Raiders can concentrate fire on them very efficiently. A beautiful Penumbral Pendulum to break not break the Council Guard, but do quite a bit of damage to them. And again, Ungor Raiders focusing on the Rat Ogres, which is exactly what they should. That being said, Skaven are definitely doing some damage in response. They've got these Poison Winds still online here. Lord Scroll also came in, did a bunch of damage initially with that Rod of Corruption. And the Packmaster, of course, still quite healthy. He's managed to catch Kazrak with the Assassin's Trophy active, also poisoning him, debuffing his speed a little bit. But the other two Chariot Lords will come in, and Chariot Heroes, rather, will come in and screen. A lot of Skaven units have been shattered already, but of course, it's mostly just meat shields anyway. But one Storm Vermin, the Storm Vermin with Halberd did get routed here. Rat Ogres also getting routed, so some important high-value units broken very quickly for the Skaven, and this is one thing. Against Beastmen, you can face that kind of mobility shock, right? And for Skaven, I almost think in many cases you're better off with trying to counterpunch. With Furnace is definitely very important. Skrulk's all right, but I do think the Furnace giving some extra mass and bodies here Like, the fact that he used all that Winds of Magic on that Plague means that he's just now getting to summoning up more clan rats when most of his army's already evaporated. Like, you really need to be summoning more bodies during the main part of the fight in order to delay the the beastmen from getting into your expensive missile units. Not that there were very many, but if he could salvage these Poison Wind Globes, he could perhaps get back in this fight. He's got the Rat Ogres coming back, regular Storm Vermin coming back. Form up a little pocket here and just start to throw those globes if he can get them back in the fight here. It does manage to rout the Tuskor chariots. Again, got a pretty strong little presence right here. Only Skaven Slave Spears, but Iksha's Triads as well, providing some little bit of armor sundering. That Weeping Blade for anything that does have armor, which is not a lot on the Beastman army, granted, but still. I've also got some Skaven Slaves, or Clan Rats, Summon Clan Rats, pushing back, getting after those Ungor Raiders. And again, he's going for the use of the Plague here to try and get the Ungor Raiders and the Centaurs. I'm just not really sure about this. Again, I think you would want to just keep summoning up extra bodies to keep throwing at the Beastmen in order to give your power units some support here. It looks like he is going to pull up another summon there, but a lot of magic potentially being used on other things. Globes, though, they get in and get a nasty toss. Apocalyptic Vision gets popped from Kazrak, though. He gets Liber Bubonicus on himself to do quite a bit of damage, so he's going to have to be careful about where he charges it. Terror Route also goes down for a bunch of the Beastmen, as, of course, the Packmaster on his Brood Horror still is a terror in the night, so Skaven not going quietly, definitely. Balance power has stabilized and equalized pretty substantially, as the Packmaster is able to continue to heal. These Poison Winds came in and just did a ton of damage. They're up to 1,500 damage value pretty much after that volley. And climbing, so pretty good stuff. The fact that he was able to rally and kind of form that little defensive area. Now, that being said, a lot of those units are now routed off, so Kazrak and the Centaurs could come in and shut down these Poison Winds. Perhaps the Packmaster and the other heroes would try and respond in time, but who's to say they would be able to? Could also, you know, use the Minotaurs to try and surround them, to at least bog them down. But here come the, oh man, the Globes get a counter volley in time is the question. The Centaurs are coming in. Oh, they do barely get a volley off in time, so they will apply the damage over time effect. Probably not enough to save the unit, but let's see. They're down to 10 unit models, down below 200 HP. Yeah, they should be all done for at that point. More Clan Rat summons going to be pulled up here. Try to continue to pressure the Ungor Raiders. Protect the Packmaster at all costs. He is going to be a big reason if the Skaven are able to win this, because he's sustained. But look at the balance of power all the way back towards even, as the Summoned Clan Rats do kind of pressure away some of the archers here. As long as the Ungor Raiders can keep firing, it should be alright. But we've got Centaurs moving in to try and clean up some more routing units. Regrouped from route units, rather. More Centaurs coming in here as well, just charging the Passmaster, keeping him bogged down. Clan Rats eating the charge of the Chariots. Chariots, really, if they can get back and start dealing some damage to Skrulk and his squad, they could equalize this fight pretty significantly. Like you see, there's a big chunk right there on Skrulk. That 100 charge bonus of Kazrak is pretty legit, but of course, he himself being very low at this point. Assassin's Trophy is still a danger, so he's got to be careful. Doesn't want to get overly aggressive and throw the game here. But rear charge on these Rat Ogres. Again, just getting rid of all the support units, so you only have characters yet left is pretty important. The Rat Ogres, they're taking less damage than I thought they would on that charge, though. I mean, I guess the Packmaster is healing them up ever so slightly as well, right? They're ticking up, should be at least on HP, as he's in melee. The Raiders coming back. Another couple of volleys from them should do okay. I'm surprised these Skaven Slave Spears are still fighting as well. Those guys are true champs of the Horned Rat. But, yeah, getting the Rat Ogres separated away from the Packmaster is probably decent if you can provide some kind of counterpunch. But unfortunately, the Centaurs take the charge there, which is definitely not what they wanted. But Goreherds can countercharge. They also have a 22 charge bonus. Probably just going to get run over, though. And, yep, here comes another Clan Rat summon. So things are suddenly looking a little bit dicey for the Beastmen. Yeah, they've got to wear through these Clan Rat summons, and and still take down the Packmaster and the characters. It's going to be tricky. They definitely can, but let's see what the Ungol Raiders use their shots on. Oh no, but the Clan Rats, some Clan Rats do manage to get into contact on the Ungol Raiders. They're going to get an Apocalyptic Vision, but here comes... Oh man, wow. That was a lot of damage on the Brave Shaman right there in just a short amount of time. Looks like we're going to see Rod of Corruption again. Doesn't do that much damage to single entity models, but everything that you can do in this kind of a late game fight, right? Anyway, Skaven Slay Spears is just about to rout. The Packmaster still holding firm, though. Enfeebling Foe has been casted on him. Another Clan Rat Summon going to be pulled up, and I think that's going to be a victory for the Skaven. Oh man, rough stuff. It looked initially very favorable for the Emperor there with Beastmen. Unfortunately, Human Boy is just able to bring it back with enough Skaven summons. I definitely think not chasing off the Globadiers was a pretty critical mistake. If you'd been able to get the Globadiers off the field, that comeback would have been a lot harder because you just have way more stuff. These guys ended up getting a lot of their value in that sort of second phase there. So, yeah, Skaven is brutal micro. It's true. Yeah. It's the Skaven. If you want to learn how to manage routing units, Skaven are definitely the faction that will teach you that 100%. They can be exceptionally strong if you use them well, but they're a tricky faction to use well right now, I think. But nice, yes. So end of the day, I mean, Kazrak, impressive kill totals, but doesn't actually end up paying for himself, unfortunately. It is what it is. Ungol Raiders are quite strong. Many of them pay for themselves. Centaurs do a pretty decent job. The regular Chariots, interestingly enough, do not. And also, Minotaurs, if you're going to take Minotaurs, I think you should always take Shield. That's just my opinion, but there you go. For Human Boy, of course, Skrulk definitely carried pretty hard there, as did the Packmaster and the Assassin. This is just a pretty strong hero combination. Skrulk isn't maybe as meta as he used to be, but he's still pretty good. Especially with these three in tandem, you kind of got a lot of your bases covered. The Rat Ogres also, they didn't rout, so there's that. They actually did contribute. Poison Winds kind of spoke for themselves. Council Guard got kind of wrecked there, as did the other Storm Vermin. Storm Vermin aren't that good of a unit. Their stats, they're just kind of there. But anyway, fun one. Definitely a fun one. Right? Yeah. Yes, Draymond, definitely. Right? I thought for sure the Skaven were out of that one, but they managed to bring it back. Pretty impressive stuff. So, let's see here. We've got let's go to Blizzardmen, another one from Ethereum here. Tic-tac-toe against the Warriors of Chaos. So, Sigvald versus Tic-tac-toe. Oh boy, the dread matchup. We've got some Saurus Spears, including Legion of Chocolates. Interesting choice. Regiment of Renown, Red Crest, the Court of Sotek, Skink Javs. I've also got Hawk Sentinels up in the air, Colossadon Hunters flying alongside Tic-tac-toe with some Chameleon Stalkers, right? Or just regular Chameleon Skinks, that's right. Okay. And there is some counterpunch in the air. 2 Feral Mancores. We've also got the Soul of Damnation Hell Cannon, Chaos Warriors with Halberds, some Warhounds up front, a Mirror Guard, very appropriate for Sigvald. 1 Chosen with Halberd as well, so a pretty tall build. Horse Masters, low in numbers. If we take a look here, only 560 models for the Warriors of Chaos, one of which has already been felled. It must have been, what, like a Hound or something? But anyway, Therodons are going to fly up and over. Probably going to use their drop spheres on the... Ooh, Solar Engine. Nice. Solar Engine gets a solid hit there on the Chosen with Halberds, down to 12 and 32 on their stats. Yeah, looks like the Pawhawk Sentinels were maybe going to try and drop their rocks, get their rocks off on those Chosen, but instead they just kind of pull up here. They're going to eat some fire from the Javelin Cavalry. The Soul of Damnation landed some shots into the Unbreakable Cohort of Sotek. Hey, what's up, Nurse Sultan? Welcome. Welcome. Looks like we're going to have some kind of a Final Transmutation. That's an early cast of Final Transmutation. Only hits Tic-tac-toe as well. It will do some pretty substantial HP damage to him, don't get me wrong, but we'll see. Colossadon Hunters should still be able to come in and wreck these Manticores, no problem. This melee fight I mean, it is Chaos Halberds fighting Sora Spears for the most part, which is an efficient engagement for neither unit, but I would think this might slightly favor the Chaos Halberds. I actually have no idea, to be honest. I feel like I tested this at one point, and I really don't remember who should win that fight, but I'm guessing it's probably like a 60-40 in favor of the Chaos Warriors with Halberds. Could be wrong there. Anyway, the Pawhawk Sentinels do eventually end up getting caught by the Feral Manticore, but the Colossadon Hunters get in. Unfortunately, little Skink Priest Bro does get sniped here. Gets routed out by the Manticore. Did manage to get the spell off in time? No? Yeah, Curse of Onrare did go off, so it's debuffing all of these units' melee stats. That plus the Blinded means a lot of these units are going to be fighting 0 attack, 0 defense. Will mean they're basically just wet noodling against skinks, right? Like, they won't struggle to even beat skink infantry with that significant stat debuffs. So I kind of like that combination there. Some good synergy. Solar Engine also applying some great pressure to the Horse Masters. Stalkers, there was a unit of Stalkers that managed to come back and shut down the Soul of Damnation. Doggos are going to try and come in and bail it out, but I think the Snaggletooth Chaos Dowie are done for. We'll see. They are unbreakable, so if he can manage to rout these chameleons, then they can get back on the Soul of Damnation and keep firing. But how much damage will be done during the time that it's shut down? Other Manticore is now getting taken down. The Colossadon Hunter is definitely paying a price, but they managed to now fell both of the Manticores. Very important, so the Pawhawk Sentinels are free to come over, maybe get a little rock drop here, and it does look like the Stalkers are going to do it, in fact. Yes, they, Dowie crew does not manage to get away from them, so they pretty much have murdered them all, and the Pawhawk Sentinel is coming over again for the rock drop to finish off the Warhounds to make sure the Stalkers can keep that artillery shut down. Very important. Meanwhile, Sigvald getting jumped by Tic-Tac-Toe and the Colossadon Hunters. I mean, he's tanky, don't get me wrong, but summon Manticore as well for the Lizardmen. So just going all in with the expensive Lore of Beast spells. I love it. I actually do love it. And Sigvald does not love it. He is getting absolutely stepped all over by angry beasts. And yeah, Tic-Tac-Toe showing him who the Master of the Skies is. Sigvald may be one of the best Footlords in the game, but in the rock, paper, scissors of Cold War, generally Flying Lords beat Footlords. And especially when the Flying Lords come in with Manticore, you know, a dinosaur, several Colossadon Hunters. Just not really a fair fight, is it, for Sigvald? But I think we all can agree, sometimes it's nice to watch Sigvald just get absolutely dumped all over, because he's pretty hard to snipe typically, but not in a situation like this. Definitely not in a situation like this, but oh man, is that a nasty final transmutation. That is probably going to finish off the Colossadon Hunters. Will do some damage to Tic-Tac-Toe, although he manages to mostly avoid the brunt of that. Yeah, it was not overcast, so maybe didn't do as much damage as it could have, but still. Yes. Snotling pump wagons are awesome. I agree. They're criminally underutilized. Yes. Indeed. A little bit of Solar Engine pressure there to keep the Marauder Horse Masters honest. And Tic-Tac-Toe, man. Just the terror of the desert. Warriors of Chaos cannot hold a candle to him. Definitely saying no to the end times, so... Should be pretty quickly approaching army losses. Yeah, Sorcerer Lord Medal's like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't continue this fight, so... Good game. Good game. Big thanks to Ethereon for sending in that one as well. He's got a few great ones today, honestly. This one was a little more one-sided than some of the others that we've seen, but there you go. I just wanted to show Colossadon Hunters and Tic-Tac-Toe wrecking Sigvald, because that makes people happy, right? Solar Engine also pays for itself, the Ark of Sotek as well. I mean, I didn't really catch the snake drops, but pretty much you can't bring Chosen anymore against Lizardmen because of this guy right here. He will murder all of your Chosen, which is amazing. Chameleon Skinks didn't really need to do a lot, but the Stalkers, they came in, shut down the artillery, and held out against those Hounds for a surprising amount of time as well. Sora Spears, I mean, they just kind of grinded the front line, to be expected. Like I said, I think the Halberds probably in a vacuum were like a 65-35 split in winning that. I don't know exactly. But 94 value on Sigvald, yes. Bless this day. Yes, Colossadon Hunters are very, very good in air fights for sure. Pump wagons are fun. They're very cheap, and they can provide you some hilarious, like, cheap shock that your opponent's not necessarily expecting, because not that many people take pump wagons these days, but yeah. I did have a replay recently with them that was decently fun. I don't remember if I actually ended up saving it, because it's pretty one-sided, High Elves versus Greek. Anyway, let's move on here. I don't have time for too many more replays. We've been going for a pretty decent amount of time already, yeah, 49 minutes. I'll probably go for like hour and a half to 2 hours. I do need to record some other videos today for you all. Oh yes. Yes, they will. Anyway, let's take a look here. Ah, yes, I have a replay from you. Got Gunnery Whites, Double Gunny, and the Fleet Admiral with Pistol, which all gets my approval. Lots of zombies with polearms, 5 zombie polearms, 3 regular deckhands, 2 depth guard polearms, a couple of bombers, and a couple of shotgun zombies as well. Hound coming in here with Vlad. He's got 2 Banshees, which is actually going to be a little bit tough. There's not much magic damage at all for this Vampire Coast army, so that's going to be tricky. Got a Vargulf, bunch of corpse carts, so again, build is approved by me. You've got Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spears, Graveguard as sort of the Triari backline, if you will. But I'm a fan of corpse carts in all their forms. I think you should definitely be taking like minimum 2 to 3 corpse carts in every single Vampire Counts build, so yes, Draymond, feel free. I think the link in the description may be out of date, but let me go ahead and just grab one quickly for you here. For those of you guys in chat, you can join the Discord here. Anyway, zombies are getting in there, fighting some stuff. Man, the Admiral comes in and takes quite a bit of damage initially from the Banshees, which is pretty surprising to me. Again, she doesn't have magic damage, but the Gunnies are currently all focusing on Vlad, which is definitely the right call. Oh man, Vlad eating some bombs there too, which is actually probably good for the Counts to not have those bombs go on like Graveguard or anything else. But the Chevron Fell Bats are up to 59 melee defense, so they can kind of come in here and just like tie stuff down and be super, super annoying. And Vlad also coming in here to be annoying to the Gunnery Whites is taking a lot of damage from the counterfire. This Gun Crab Triangle, you know, when you position them in such a way that they can provide Overwatch fire for each other, can be very, very strong. Just be nasty for enemy characters, especially foot characters, to come in and try and deal with that. Like right now, the Fleet Admiral, a little bit of a lapse in micro, isn't targeting Vlad. He does have the Karstein ring up right now anyway, so it wouldn't be doing that much damage, but still, like Gunny and the Admiral all have the range to now turn and focus on Vlad and be able to push him back. But the one Gunny is definitely getting pounded out by the angry Vampire Dad. Meanwhile, in the rest of the army, bombs bombing. Ooh, some nice volleys there. Get in there, just absolutely wreck those Skeleton Warriors. Not doing as much the Graveguard. That is a Balefire Corpse card, so debuffing Winds of Magic, but not really providing any area of effect healing. But Vlad, once again, overextends, as he is wont to do. Dance Macabre puts him up to 94 melee attack, so he'll be definitely making contact with the Fleet Admiral there. She does not have her Opal Amulet active right now, so she'll be taking quite a bit of damage from that, but a nice indication of the Heck to provide some healing. Gunnery White and the Admiral both eating some of that healing, and Vlad very quickly approaching his healing cap. Some heavy Lord sniping going on here with this triple gun crab, right? As to be expected, and not to mention, oh, the Depth Guard polearms. Vlad managed to get himself surrounded by Depth Guard polearms, which they definitely have the stats to be able to fight him. I mean, 50, 44 in terms of attack and defense, great AP damage. So yeah, Vlad's definitely in trouble. He's having to run for his life. That being said, the Banshees could end up carrying pretty hard here. Again, there's no magic damage. And interestingly enough, Vampire Coast is a faction that can struggle with Ethereals occasionally because they actually don't have any units, well, many units, I should say, with bound innate magic damage. They do have their own Ethereals, of course, in Syrenes that deal magic damage, but there weren't any brought here. And, I mean, in terms of melee stats, the Banshees could probably grind through the whole blob. I don't know, with the melee attack debuff, perhaps not, but interesting. Where are the black coaches, right? Yeah, no black coaches. Zombies galore, though. And we've also got this one Death Guard polearm holding out quite admirably here in the center. There's, besides the Grave Guard with great weapons, there's not a lot of troops on the Vampire Coast army that are going to be able to deal with them well. It's just a matter of, like, can the Banshees grind them down? I really don't think so. Only 40 attack on the Banshees means they're below base hit chance against the Death Guard polearms. So it's interesting. Not to mention you've got the 2 gun crabs still alive to provide... all 3 gun crabs still alive, actually, to continue to provide supporting fire for each other. So things are looking pretty good for Vampire Coast, I would say, at this point. The Grave Guard with great weapons are crumbling, like fighting some zombie polearms, which is just amazing value for the polearms. Spiteful Shot. Yeah, Spiteful Shot gives magic damage. You have the Sirens. If you bring, like, the Damned Knights Errant, Silostra can give you a little bit of magic damage as well. Of course, you do have access to Lore of Death. Not that anyone takes it, but you can take Spirit Lead if you should so choose. And it might not be the worst idea in the world instead of taking the second Gunnery Wight here to actually take a Lore of Death Vampiress. Vampire Captain. He gives you the Taunt, also Spirit Leech. You can have a little bit of extra anti-character magic damage, and the Spirit Leech is also pretty good against, like, Can Race or Hex Race too, given their low model count. But just a little bit of food for thought. It does require Winds of Magic for you to spend on that Spirit Leech, whereas the Gunnery Wight's gun, right, doesn't require any Winds of Magic. It's just the ammunition. It's not going to do as much damage, but it will do damage over time, certainly to the Banshees. I mean, even the what is it, 75% whatever mitigation of that missile damage will still do enough missile damage over time to wear them down. Corpse Cart goes down, the Balefire getting dismantled by the Angry Crab as the deck guard, right? The depth guard continue to chase the Banshees and just to allow them to get set and fight, right? Keep the pressure up. Sort of your only quote-unquote mobile unit at this point, right? At 36 speed is less mobile than the crabs even, but still they can kind of chase the Banshees around. Banshees at 60 speed are as fast as cavalry, so there's not really any way of catching them directly, but gunfire from Gunny should be able to do the trick. Yes, triple gun crab. You can see how it even staggers the Banshee. Like, how impactful do your shots have to be to stagger a literal ghost? You know what I mean? Like, that's some packed powder right there, Gunny. What are you sticking in that rifle? I have to wonder sometimes. Yeah, Shade Wraith Gunners are another one. Right, yeah, they're the ROR Det Gunners. They can be really hard to protect against vampire counts, though. For any faction, protecting stationary missile units is pretty tricky against vampire counts. Ooh, nice little Scav Scrat there to help finish off the Sternsman. But, like, these shotguns are somehow still alive. I'm not really sure how, but, like, between the mobile units, the zombie summons, there's so many different ways that the vampire counts can interrupt you from firing, so, yeah. Yeah, black coaches are very good, and having a mobile lord is also super, super helpful. Like, yes, Vlad is, in theory, less prone to being sniped, but because he's so slow, that actually leads him to be more likely to be sniped here, because here, in this matchup specifically, you get your protection from mobility in terms of just staying out of range, being able to fly in quickly. I say fly in because I'm thinking specifically of a flying lord in general, but just be able to fly or ride in, drop a summon, drop a couple support spells, maybe do a few quick charges, and get back out again before you get shot to pieces. Yeah, mobility definitely key here. Yeah, counts dropped a lot of micro when they were trying to save Vlad. It's true, and that's one issue when you overextend with your lord. You can kind of get put into a panic situation where you end up making mistakes with the rest of your army because of that, but triple gun crab, I mean, there's a reason why I'm such a fan of this particular loadout, is because even if you kind of over-meme in some other areas of your army, it ends up working out okay. I do like to pick at the Banshees here. I think if they had had a little bit more support, they definitely could have won. And I think the key here is you just want to stick the Banshees to the Gunnery Wights as much as you can. Like, because they're literally faster than the Gunnery Wights. Gunny, unless he screens the Banshee with another unit, he's not going to be able to get away, right? And the Banshees, I don't know if they'll even necessarily win that fight, but they'll do cost-effective damage, certainly. And be able to wear the Gunnies down quite a bit, not allow them to shoot. But, hindsight, obviously, 2020. The Grave Guards did come in and clean up quite a bit of kills, but not as much value as you maybe would have liked. The Fell Bats also is an interesting one with the chevrons to come in and just kind of tie units down. Ultimately, though, for Wei, these Depth Guard polearms, I think, is something that the Hound didn't expect or account for. Really needed more Grave Guards and maybe to juice, like, to get his Grave Guard great weapons on the Depth Guard and then maybe hit them with some buffs so that they could chew through them very quickly. But definitely a fun one. I do like the appropriate number of corpse carts here. Even if they don't, pay for themselves, obviously. They're still... Depth Guard were a serious pick. My bad. So what's the meme here, then? The shotguns? Shotguns are a little bit of a meme, even though one of them does actually pay for themselves. Shotguns are, they're a unit that I need to investigate more. They're just kind of one that, like, the handguns have longer range and comparable DPS, so, like, I don't really see a lot of reason to ever take the shotguns, to be honest. But maybe they're up close... Burst is better? I don't know. Take the regular Graveguard and bring a couple of extra. Yeah, maybe enough numbers would be good enough to just drown the Depth Guard. Get it? Anyway, I'll see myself out. Yeah, different Lord choice, though. I mean, heck, even like Kemmler Krell could have been a good combination here. Krell's actually really strong. At taking down the Crab Lords, and in general, I like him quite a bit in this matchup. Kemmler's AoE healing also would have been pretty nice to help sustain, and he would have been cheaper than Vlad, so you could have taken some more units as well, but... Shotguns are better anti-air. Interesting. I have not tested that out, Way. I think they're better than the regular handguns at that. That is a very interesting point that I hadn't really considered. I'll have to look into that because potentially you're right. I mean, the fast missile speed plus the shotgun blast shooting up in the air, being able to make like contact with all the pellets, so to speak, on a flying unit, I could see that. I could actually see it's like skeet shooting, right? I mean, yeah, I can see that. Makes sense. I'll have to investigate that a little bit more for myself, Way, before I totally agree with you, but I sort of see how that could be plausible, certainly. But anyway, let's move on. Having a blast here. Hopefully you guys are having fun. We've had some really, really fun ones. Let's go to... We haven't seen Tomb Kings yet today, so let's go to the Bony Boys. The last undead not to see the light of day in this particular stream. Cool Umbrella coming in. Sophisticated Editor. Interesting. I'm sure there's a story there with that name. But, once again, Sigvald, the Dread Sigvald, are going to be coming in. I wonder if they're going to move Sigvald to Slaanesh at some point in the life cycle of Game 3. It would really make too much sense. I would also be down for, if the Warriors of Chaos get added as their undivided selves into Game 3, I would be honestly down for Sigvald to be on both rosters. Like, that would make him unique in that he'd be the only Lord to be on multiple rosters. And I don't know. I think it would be loreful for him to be taken with either one of those armies, right? So it'd be kind of hilarious too, because then you could see like a Warriors Sigvald versus a Slaanesh Sigvald, and maybe in a head-to-head. Anyway, let's look at the builds here. I'll quit rambling. We've got Arcane the Black, we've got Hyro Titan, and a Casket of Souls, Chosen the Gods, Regiment of Renowned Ushati, bunch of Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spears, some Skeleton Archers, Scorpion, a couple, we've got just the one Necrotect, Lore of Light, let's see here, Shem's Burning Gaze, and the Net. Interesting stuff. The Hell Cannon returning some fire here, Sorcerer Lore of Fire, a bunch of Marauders, Sigvald, some Forsaken. Interesting. Chariots, I like the pick of the Chariots. And a Pharaoh Manticore, of course, always going to be quite strong. Chaos Knights over here, trying to avoid taking too much heat from the Ushati initially. Here comes the Shem's Burning Gaze. Going to go after the caster, just trying to snipe out the enemy caster. That Chaos Sorcerer Lore of Fire is not really too happy about his life choices at this point. And the Hero Titan actually gets hit by the Hell Cannon. I mean, it is a big enough target. I guess it's to be expected that the Hell Cannon should be able to hit it pretty consistently. All right, I love that sound of the Hell Cannon. Boom. it's a satisfying artillery sound, definitely. But the Chariots kind of charge into the front here. They're doing okay, but they're going to get netted, and the Scorpion and the Hero Titan going to come in to counterpunch. That being said, with the net currently on cooldown, the Manticore is able to get in here and do some damage to the Chosen of the Gods. Arkan will respond, though, with a Skeleton Summon. He's got the Liber Mortis. I mean, Manticore does not care about your Skeleton Summon. He's just going to run straight through it, most likely, or perhaps get distracted. Okay, maybe he'll get distracted. But anyway, nice. Ooh, Piercing Bolts of Burning, just slightly mistargeted. If that had been placed directly on this pocket, that would have been devastating. But this will be devastating. Burning Head is all you need. You don't really need the Piercing Bolts of Burning, right? I guess he just wanted to go all in with his magic because the caster's about to die anyway. And he did successfully get probably about 100 kills there. He just gets murdered by skeleton archers, though, in Ushabti Greybow Fire. Wow. Wow, that caster paid a price. He is not going to meet... Oh, he's probably going to meet his Chaos God, whatever it is. Anyway, probably get turned into a spawn for his failures. Forsaken, eating a shot there. The Chaos Assault is having some issues, but they're managing to draw some units out of position. The Hero Titan and the Scorpion being so far outside, away from this main infantry fight, could be trouble. In fact, the infantry can now kind of try and break through and get at some of these missile units. That Burning Head actually was reasonably decisive in that it evened out this infantry fight so much that the Warriors of Chaos, they just have to grind through like a couple of skeleton spears and then they're scot-free into all of these missile units, right? More or less. So Chaos Knight threat is looming. These are the Power Sword Chaos Knights, so they'll be okay in sustained combat. Definitely don't want to necessarily fight the Hero Titan for a extended period of time, but at the same time, it's not going to be the worst fight in the world. Same thing with the Scorpion here. Like, Scorpion 38, 36, 45, 51, so their sustained combat stats are just much better. Even if they don't necessarily have the greatest AP values, they still have good enough AP. But, oh man, Hell Cannon still online. The Ka-chunk. Ow. Yes. Still landing in here. Not super accurate, but they are getting some damage. Probably want to go after the Blessed Legion, but here come the Chariots to do just that. Nice rear charge in here. We're going to see another net. Try and pin them in. The Chariots have been a pretty good tool so far in just being annoying. Like over here, charging into the Tomb Scorpion, allowing those Chaos Knights to disengage, kind of pull back, and perhaps re-engage. Point blank, Shem's Burning Gaze, though, from the Hero Titan just detonates a Chariot. And the Scorpion doing the death roll animation. Someone just recently said on Reddit that they just noticed that there's a pilot. There's this mummy dude. He's in here driving the Scorpion. A lot of people don't realize, but that is in fact the guy who is in charge of piloting the Scorpion. Could you imagine that that's your job? It's like, okay, we're gonna mummify you and stick you in a giant stone scorpion so you can murder people in 1,000 years. How does that sound? Like, yes, I think I would take that job. I would take that job over being a skeleton archer, that's for sure. Oh man, these Chaos Warriors just heavy grinding up through the crumbling warriors. Wow, what a shot right there. Look at that action shot of the whole army just battling it out. I love this game, guys. Can I just say, what a pleasure it is to be able to do this for you all. Thank you all so much for coming out. Yes. Yes, indeed. Right? I would be down for that job. That sounds like a pretty cool job. I mean, it's either that or you end up in this pile of bones right here. And you get stepped on by some, you know, crusty old fart flinging spells. Which I guess, you know, there's definitely worse ways to go. You could have your immortal soul damned to the realm of Slaanesh, for example. But yeah, I would say in terms of top good ways to go, being a Scorpion driver would be probably one of the better ways, I think, to be immortalized. Like, yeah, you're not in charge of the most high-tier unit, but at the same time, because you're not in charge of the most high-tier unit, you're not likely to be focused as much as if you were, say, driving like a Hero Titan or something. I don't know if the Hero Titans actually have drivers. I don't think they do, but you get what I'm saying. Like he can kind of fly under the radar, right? And because he's a cheap single entity, he's very likely to see a lot of gainful employment in lots of multiplayer armies because he's not, you know, it's not too much of an investment to take. So, I mean, it does seem like it would be a fairly fruitful endeavor to be a Scorpion driver. I love the Necrotech comes in here and it's just like, yes, I'm a part of this. Aha! See my creations? Yes. Flee from my statues, peasant. Oh, Yes. Better than my job. All right, I was just about to say that sounds. I think that sounds pretty fun. Oh, the Chaos Dawi crew is trying to run. What are they doing? I guess we'll have to wait through the fast forward for them to give up the fight, but. Yeah, I think they're still going to be around. I mean, in tabletop, I want to say that the Hell Cannon was like an actual monster, but yeah. It's driven by a team of ghosts. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, that would be pretty cool too, though, I'm not going to lie. Like, the Hero Titan's definitely one, like, yeah, you're slow, you're a pretty big target, but you do get to cast some spells, and, I mean, you have one of the coolest unit models in the entire game, so there's that. You get to swing these giant scales at people. Yeah, fun stuff. Very good job by Cool Umbrella taking home the win there. Pretty decently balanced build. The Doom Scorpion does its job. Chosen the Gods are so nasty. If these are sort of demi-artillery units are allowed to just sit and shoot, they will rip apart an opposing army, which is largely what happened here. The Hero Titan and the Scorpion didn't have to do too much, but they were able to hold out quite well. Marauders, I mean, they're here. 111 kills on the Chaos Warriors. I think the caster, I'd expect a little bit more value. I mean, 139 kills is impressive, but yeah, just needed like one more burning head in order to break through that skeleton front line a little bit quicker. Could have shut down those missile units. Also, just sort of a lack of anti-large in general, I think, in this build. You are up against Tomb Kings, which have, you know, constructs, large armored monsters that are quite strong, so it'd be beneficial to have some halberds. Like, I probably would have traded out these Forsaken and these regular Chaos Warriors for some halberd warriors in order to help deal with the constructs in the late game, but obviously hindsight's 2020, so there you go. Well, yes, it is petty, but there you go. It's not going to work. I mean, they'll still get caught and he'll still lose, but it'll just make the game take a little bit longer. Anyway, let's see here. What have we not done? Norska. We need some Norska today. Let's get some Rick versus Rick, BBB, Civil War, Blitzen versus Cool Umbrella, Wolfric versus Imrik, the Battle of Ick. Who's the best Ick? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I'm sure for like I'm not a tabletop player, right? Like, I don't even have much of an attachment to that. But I can imagine if you were a tabletop player, to see all of this stuff fully realized in 3D and to be able to take it in such numbers, like, you could only ever dream of having 900 unit models in a tabletop army, right? It's like, that would just be, number one, it's ridiculously expensive. Number two, it's just sort of logistically unfeasible to set up a table and actually play with that many models, but in a virtual space, of course, we are not bound by such physical limitations. And as a result, we get this Mammoth Wolfric. Yes, along with the Skinwolf Werkin, we've got some Marauder Champs and some regular Marauders. Lots of regular Marauders. What, probably 2 champs? Yeah, 2 champs and some Horse Masters. Alongside Illyrian Reaver Archers for High Elves. Imrik, of course, on the Dragon. We've also got Fireborn, a relatively narrow force of Sylvan Guard and Phoenix Guard. And the Illyrian Reavers getting aggressive, just charging straight up the pipe into these Marauders, not giving a care in the world. Yes. Yes, indeed. And you don't need to paint them. That's the right off Tippus. Yes, you don't need to paint them. You don't need to assemble them and glue them and stab your fingers with the spiky bits, right? Anyway, Imrik contributing to this cavalry fight over here. All of these Marauder Horse Masters are just going to get completely murderized, but that's fine. That's to be expected. Also got a boat here in the front line. Going to be doing some good anti-infantry damage to this narrow infantry force. I mean, thankfully, Wolfric really doesn't care too much about halberds. He can kind of, especially Phoenix Guard, because they're kind of just gonna wet noodle him, more or less. Like, he can get in here and just start to wreck. I don't know why my middle mouse button's deciding not to work all of a sudden. There we go. No? Maybe? Gonna get some camera rotation in anyway. But, yeah, Hunter of Champions popped on the mage there. Glittering robe, Sword of Torgald. So he's up to 153 armor, 665 weapon strength. I would actually say you probably don't have to take Sword of Torgald, and I wouldn't take Sword of Torgald if he's on the Mammoth. I would only ever take Sword of Torgald if he's on horseback, because it improves his non-AP damage. But anyway, yeah, Dragon Imrik drops down. The two are like merging and becoming one for a moment. Imrik managed to somehow land inside of the Mammoth, which I have never seen before. But eventually they get themselves sorted out. Imrik's going to eat an Apotheosis here and try to fight it out with his bow here. He's got the Star Lance active, so Wolfric should be nice and flammable. Scroll of Shielding, Lord of Dragons, Hunter of Champions. No, just the Star Lance. Lord of Dragons does fade relatively quickly, though. It's got a pretty short uptime, and Wolfric can just pull away regardless. Sort of reposition with his ground forces there. Yeah, the Fireborn are a unit that if you can keep them safe, the thing is, like, it used to be that Famir were the counter for Dragon Princes, right? And Famir with great weapons are probably still trade pretty decently there. But, I don't know why my middle mouse button's just deciding not to work all of a sudden. That's really annoying. Anyway. Yeah, the Fireborn, if they're left alone, the thing is that Norska does have some tools that can help deal with them. Right now, the Fireborn are definitely eating up all these doggos. Like, the Ice Wolves plus the Beast of Tashnar can deal cost-effective damage to them if they're able to get a good engagement. But meanwhile, the center blob fight is just fully degenerating in favor of Wolfric. And I want to be able to rotate my camera down. How do I do it? Do it on my keybinds. Nope, that's not it. Okay. Anyway, we'll figure it out eventually. Yeah, Sword is kind of useless on the Mammoth. It's only a 50 damage buff. How do I point my camera downwards, though? Man, that's really annoying. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. Might have to take a quick break and get my controls sorted after this, guys. I don't know what's going on with my mouse here. I have to... Nope. Okay. Anyway... Hunter Champions being popped on Imrik here. The Fireborn are in this center supporting, but there's just so much Marauder infantry left. Skinwolf Werekin comes in. He's got Glittering Robe active to put him up to 113 armor, right? So he's going to be taking very little damage from the Fireborn just because of their lack of AP. And Imrik is like 2v... he's like 1v2, 1v3 here in terms of single entities if you factor in the Sorcerer, Shaman Sorcerer. But even still, he's doing massive damage to Wolfric, taking massive damage in the process. But let's see, the rest of the army is holding out okay. Yep, Reaver's cleaning out units out in the periphery. Got the Fireborn coming back in for a nice shock charge. Only 70 armor on Wolfric, with just, I guess he does have 93 because of the little AoE buff from the, oh, that's actually, yeah, I always forget about this Ruinous Flesh that the Skinwolf Werekin has access to. It is really nice, and believe it or not, the missile resistance actually applies against breath attacks, so this is something that not a lot of people realize. It was sort of a conversation about a year ago when people started to think about it, but actually all magic missile abilities, including spells, breath attacks, something like Arrows of Kurnos, right? All of those count as shooting attacks for the purposes of missile resistance and missile damage. So what that means is you can actually increase the damage of your breath attack by casting, for example, Flaming Sword of Ruin, because it literally increases missile damage, right? That's one of the effects of the spells, it increases missile damage. You can actually increase the damage dealt by your breath attacks through that means. Not to mention, if, let's say, for example, you have a Black Dragon for the Dark Elves, which doesn't have fire damage on its breath attack like the High Elven dragons do, right? If you cast, again, Flaming Sword of Ruin, you will actually give that breath attack flaming magic damage, right? So, it's interesting, you know, the missile resistance buff would actually, did help mitigate some of the damage of that breath attack from Imrik, but not enough to keep Wolfric in the fight, obviously. He's still going to get routed off there, but the infantry, Marauder infantry, should be able to hold at this point. You can see that the High Elves just aren't able to hold their leadership together without Imrik close by to give that Encourage buff. I mean, I guess the Mage is giving the Encourage buff anyway, but yeah. with just Imrik left on the field. I mean, we'll see. Maybe he can come in and just tear out everything. Probably the best thing for Imrik to do is to go directly after the Skin Wolf. To try and just break him with a big charge. Like one charge, I mean, with a huge 50 charge bonus. I guess not huge, but good 50 charge bonus of Imrik. Like a couple of big hits on the Werekin would be enough to get him off the field. But Breath Attack, again, is not going to do too much there because it kind of knocks him out of the area of effect, plus the missile resistance factor anyway. He gets tossed, and now the Shaman Sorcerer comes in, going to try and get some attacks in the side of Imrik. Lord of Dragons gets popped on the Werekin. He is in big, big trouble. He stands up and is probably going to get, not terrified because he is immune to psychology, but just straight up routed. Right, too bad they removed the leadership buff on Glittering Robe. I know, I kind of agree. I mean, it is nice to just have a straight up huge armor buff, but... Oh man, and a massive terror rout takes hold for Norska, and it looks like they may actually end up losing the game. The Fireborn with 4 unit models online coming in here and teaching that Skinwolf Werekin a big lesson. Oh no, but the Phoenix Guard shatter too, so units on both sides giving up the final fight here. Shaman Sorcerer, Lore of Metal. Oh, will he try and charge the High Mage here and rout her off? No, and instead he chooses to get over to the support of this Werekin, perhaps. Can the Werekin get a charge off onto Imrik? Oh, Imrik almost countercharges the Werekin, but the Werekin manages to bypass, get some hits, finishes off the Fireborn, gets tossed, and Glittering Robe once again. 153 armor for the Werekin. That is just ridiculous. This one Fireborn that remains is not going to do anything and just die. And now the super armored Werekin, where will he go? That is the question. High Mage, again, being back, means that the Imrik can just stay up in the air without suffering from the leadership penalties. Comes in and just eats, absolutely eats the Werekin. I mean, obviously with the massive AP damage, that Glittering Robe doesn't help at all against Imrik. He literally just gets killed. And I think with that, Imrik will actually take the victory there against Norska. So what was initially, again, looking pretty nasty, perhaps. I mean, I don't think that a bunch of champs can carry it, but to be honest, they are champs, and Imrik is exhausted, which means his armor is significantly debuffed, right? The champs have 56 melee defense. They have decent enough leadership. I don't know, will the champs be able to just grind down Imrik? That is the question. We got the Shaman Sorcerer coming in. He could drop another Glittering Robe if he has the Winds of Magic, which wouldn't do a lot for the champions, but it would help that mitigate a small fraction of the damage that they could be subjected to. If he really wants to get ballsy, he could try and call a Searing Doom directly on Imrik's head, which would probably deal some good damage to the dragon. It's hard to say. I know, like, Piercing Bolts of Burning would, certainly, but I don't know with Searing Doom if it does quite as much. But let's fast forward as the champs continue to grind down Imrik. I would imagine eventually that he is going to beat the champs, but, I mean, I guess we'll see. It is going to be very, very close. Very, very close. No way. The champs might actually win this, guys. Wow. Wow, wow. Yeah, that High Mage heal was pretty critical because the difference is, I think, like literally the difference in winning or losing at this point. Oh, both the champs rout. Oh, what a disaster for Norska. More Marauders. As soon as they get close, they're just going to get terrified, and I think that's leadership losses for Norska. I don't think they can recover from that. Maybe, of course, as soon as I say that, one unit of champs, both champs, in fact, recover their leadership. One unit comes in, gets instantly shattered. The other unit comes in, they get a few attacks on Imrik, get him down below 600 HP, almost down below 500 HP. Will they be able to do it down below 300 HP? Imrik routs, and the champs. Oh, the Marauder champs. Those guys get promoted to be chieftains, all of them, all, you know, however many were remaining, because that was an impressive stand, I have to say. Champs for the win. You don't see them all the time, but I do like them in certain matchups, and this is definitely one where the high stats can come into play against the high elves. And yeah, just in general, champs, great defensive unit, 2,300 damage value, 1,400 damage value, both of them pay for themselves, like mini Chosen almost. Oh yeah, the wound mechanic in Warhammer 3 definitely would have made a pretty significant difference, as would the fire damage, right? Because, I mean, I guess, well, Norska didn't actually have any fire damage, so I guess it wouldn't have mattered, but maybe it would have actually mattered for the Skinwolf Werekin not being able to get so much healing, right? His healing rate would have been nerfed by taking some of that fire damage. So maybe it would have made a small difference, but probably not enough to swing the match. Wow. Wow. Yes, high melee defense plus glittering robe makes them like chosen, basically, right? Like chosen, but for cheaper. So I love that. Love to see that. Great job by Cool Umbrella there, taking home the win. The rest of the army, I mean, probably a lot of it struggles, I would imagine. Some hounds do okay. Some marauders do okay. The Skinwolf Werekin, 2,500 value on him. Honestly, secretly one of the strongest monsters infantry characters in the game. I think probably behind only the Troll Hag, and that's just because the Troll Hag's a caster. But I would put him above Gorbel. I would put him... I mean, I'm thinking, what other monstrous infantry characters are there? I guess the Vampire Coast thing, whatever it's called, I forget. Morngul. Definitely put him ahead of the Morngul. Yeah, I'd probably say he's the number 2 monstrous infantry hero behind the Troll Hag. And again, that's just because the Troll Hag has some really strong abilities. Like, in terms of actual stats, he is better. The Troll Hag, don't get me wrong. Wulfric does pretty okay, but pays the iron price ultimately. Imrik, I'd imagine, yeah, pays for himself, 3,500 damage value. The Fireborn also pay for themselves, as do the Phoenix Guard. Just, the Silvern Guard, a little bit of a letdown. The Reaver Archers also, they do all right. They kind of contest the mobility well enough, but just not quite enough at the end of the day. Losing out barely on leadership there. Super, super close game, but very well played to both. Oh, yeah, he's way better than Gorich. Gorich is a meme, honestly. And I guess, the Chieftain's actually up there too, right? Because the Chieftain can take a monstrous infantry mount. We just kind of have a think. Definitely better than Gorbel. He is definitely not as good as the River Troll Hag, but again, we've already kind of discussed why. Proxgorane should be a hero, but let's not talk about that. Yeah, he's even better than the Famir, I would say. Gorich is kind of a meme. He can be okay, but yeah, he's expensive for what you get out of him. The Chieftain, though, also could be considered a monstrous infantry character, because you can take him on the Bonebreaker, and he is actually pretty solid at just 1,000 points. You can take his abilities as well, and for 1,257, get some pretty nice stuff. Shielded Distraction, even 1,327, that -5 melee attack in an AoE can be decent to have, so... I would put him probably at number 3 in terms of monstrous infantry characters. Tomb Kings don't have any. Vampire Coast. Morngul's pretty close to the bottom right now because he's just not very good. Vampire Counts don't have any. Warriors of Chaos don't have any. Wood Elves don't have any, right? So I guess that's all of them. There's not that many monstrous infantry heroes in the game. You kind of include Lords in there, then I'd still put Werekin close to the top. But anyway, let's go on. I think I have time for maybe like 1 or 2 more replays. Let's see, which ones have we not got to yet? Oh, Empire. We haven't had any Empire yet, somehow. Okay, let's go. Dark Elves versus Empire. Stormrunner coming in here with a very shady build against the Empire. No front line at all. He's just got Shades. He's got some Light Cavalry. He's got some Skirmish Cavalry, and that's pretty much it. So... I'm curious to see how this build does. It's very, very light, very fast, very squishy. Orion? Yeah, Orion, you could say he's a monstrous infantry character. I would agree with that. Yeah. Goblin big boy. The Goblin big boss is the best Wolf Lord for sure. That's no question. On the Wolf, he's even cheaper. On the Spider, he's good, but the Wolf, sometimes I prefer the Wolf because the 90 speed lets him keep up with pretty much any character in the game on foot, or on horseback even. And he's just that little bit extra cheaper. Like, yes, you don't get the poison and the Strider, but there's still some benefit, I think. He took one look at Sad Swords and said, not today, especially on this map. This map is an interesting one in that it has quite a bit of interrupted terrain, but oh man, I missed the whole situation here. There's a massive Vanguard force, all the Shades and the Dark Riders vanguarding in here, just absolutely wrecking. One Empire Knight already down. Another Empire Knight is definitely not looking good. Got some gold rank swordsmen over here alongside a Warrior Priest. They are seriously juiced up with Faith. 65-41 in terms of stats. That's insane. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway... Mortar is going to be turning around and returning fire in the opposite direction as the crossbowmen also switch directions. Supreme Sorceress of Dark Magic desperately trying to get back to her army without getting killed by the captain and whoever that is in the air. Mr. General of the Empire. But the Empire Knights definitely paid the price already. Oh, the Arms of Paul's Black Horror, rare item brought by the Supreme Sorceress Lord Dark. Doesn't actually do much damage at all, but did it? She has 95 kills, so I guess it did come through and actually wreck all of these gold chevron swordsmen, which is very painful. Also a little bit of a soul stealer in there as well. Dew Bolt now being dropped on the Warrior Priest. General of the Empire and the Captain come back to interrupt all these Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, but the Shades with greatswords could actually just countercharge and probably deal some pretty decent damage. It does look like they're just charging up the hill to try and fight a lot of these state troops in melee now, which honestly isn't the worst idea in the world. Just try and heavily break through, or maybe get into range to try and shut down the mortars with their crossbows. But Harpies flying around. The repeater crossbows do end up getting broken by this little hero pocket of the Empire here, to be expected, but will it buy enough time for the Shades to get through? It looks like the Sigmar Sons are holding up the advance of the Shades. Nicely done there, but Murderous Prowess is going to go off. Oh man, that mortar shot was so close to being insane value, but like just a hair off, unfortunately. Speaking of mortar, Marathi drops down with the Doomfire Warlocks and Harpies all in a position to harass and harangue these crossbowmen, shut down the mortars, get rid of all these Empire range units. Man, could you imagine if one of the Harpies literally got like hit flying directly above the mortar? That would be hilarious. I bet it's happened. It's got to have happened. Like, of all the crazy, like, unlikely things that can happen in this game, if you play enough battles, they will happen at some point. Anyway. Repeater crossbows coming back from route, and very quickly this is turning against the Empire here as the mass vanguard Shades were able to come in and do so much shock damage. The Arms Paul's Black Horror as well. I mostly missed it, but still, I mean, 111 kills on the Supreme Sorceress of Darkness, definitely making her presence felt, no question about that. And all of this armor-piercing crossbow fire coming in from multiple directions, even as the Shades fight in melee, which, I mean, Shades with greatswords do have AP and anti-infantry, so they can fight okay in melee. 50 melee attack as well, even though they're quite squishy. They'll definitely take a lot of cost-effective damage in return, but they'll be able to dish it out just fine. But man, look at that Soul Stealer and just all of the crossbow fire, Overwatch. Absolutely savaging this general on a Griffin here. Norska had casters, the Wolfman would be more popular. Yes, I agree. If they had caster lords, yes. Because oftentimes you see, like, Wolfric Doublecaster, right? And the Triple Chariot's strong in its own right in certain matchups, but I do think you'd see, I agree, I think you'd see, like, Double Werekin in some matchups pretty frequently. If you could, you would. Definitely. Just take a Caster Lord and take Double Werekin. Shot your own deck dropper with Queen Bess. Yeah. It does happen from time to time. It definitely, these things can happen, so. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Do I have time for another one for today? How long have we been going for? Hour 31? Yeah, we've got time for one more. Let's do it. Let's do it. That one was so much fun. I was meant to go over the damage values, but that's okay. We can just imagine what they would have been. I think it's pretty clear. Anyway, let's see here. What have I not casted? What have I not casted? Did the Rick versus Rick. I don't think we did this janky blob one, so for the final replay, what would you guys prefer? I'll give you a minute to let your voices be heard in chat. Maybe I'll put up a quick poll for the last battle. Vampire Counts versus Skaven, or do we do Lizardmen versus High Elves? You guys vote away, and I will put on some music while y'all vote. I'll give you a couple minutes to tell me what you guys want to see next. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm going to close the voting now. Didn't have, well, we had 10 people voted. That's good enough. It looks like the vampire counts gave in one out. So we will go to this one from Adam Shadow. Got the Lamian Vampire Lord against Random Nick's very interesting Skaven build. Random Nick's, of course, a veteran player. Coming in with the all anti-large build. Very interesting. I guess maybe he was expecting a Cavalry build, perhaps, from Adam Shadow. But this is one matchup where the Skaven can try and fight in a blob. Really, though, the Vampire counts have the best blob currently in the game, so it's really tricky to actually make it work, especially with good Cavalry play, like flanking your blob and kind of finding the weak points, because in any box or blob, there's always going to be weak points. Even if you deploy like this, like, I could tell you right now where the weak points are. You could charge this Storm Vermin directly in the side right here, right? You could also charge this Storm Vermin directly in the side over on this side, right? And, like, even, you know, in any defensive formation you set up, even the tightest of tight noob boxes, there's still going to be corners and places where you can get side and rear charge penalties and start to break units apart and bust through and get into this back line. Even just summoning units up, right? Like, you come in here, you pull up right in front of the Storm with halberds, you summon a zombie right behind them to get them to turn around, and then you can just rear charge them straight up, right? So, like, I don't know. I myself have faced off against a number of Skaven builds like this in my time playing as the Vampire counts, and I always found that I had the tools I needed to deal with them, but this White King definitely taking some heat right now. It could Zap Zap was not enough to stop the Scab Scab. Zap Zap the Scab Scab. The Plague Pack here in the center would probably have been a better target than these Skaven Slaves, but just going through the volume of targets here did a lot of damage. 45 kills, probably some pretty good damage valuation there. The range is such that, you know, the Giselles and the Warp Lightning Cannons can respond, but not fast enough for the Lamian to be able to just fly over and do this. Even with the Warp Storm Scroll debuffing the speed, Lightning Reflexes to help respond, to give a little bit of extra damage resistance and more speed, and a nice Breath Attack. Great combination of using the Zombie Summon to get the Zap Zap crew all bunched up, and then using the Breath Attack to just shatter them straight up. So that was really, really good value from the Lamian there. Probably racked up, yeah, 600 value off of one Breath Attack pretty much. Is pretty impressive stuff, all things considered. And really, in reality, that's like 1,200 value, right? Between the Zombie Summon and the Breath Attack right there, because that's, what is it? It could Zap Zap's 1,200, right? I want to say. But anyway, let's see. Adam definitely being very patient as he approaches here, which is the right call. Bringing his Black Knights up far and wide. The Black Knights here are great with their anti-infantry bonus. 26 charge isn't amazing, but they're pretty good in sustained combat for an undead unit. The anti-infantry, they're basically, think of Nehekara Horsemen, right? Nehekara Horsemen are often thought of as a really good unit because they are legitimately fantastic. Black Knights are only 100 points more expensive. They have better armor. They have an anti-infantry bonus. They're just as fast, if not faster. They're, you know, they're like better in every way, pretty much, than Nehekara Horsemen, and they're only 100 points more expensive. So they are very much comparable, I would say. They're just like slightly more elite, more expensive. But there's the Scav Scrath right through the center, doing some nice damage to the Plague Pack there. And yeah, you can see again the Black Knights just being very patient. Adam feeling no need to overcommit into a fight at this point, just using his Breath Attacks and Scab Scraths very patiently to even out this fight early on. I will say one criticism I do have of this build is a lack of Corpse Carts. The Corpse Carts can help even just these basic zombies and skeletons sustain, even against kind of low-tier units. Like, you look at Storm Vermin, they're only 30 attack, right? So if you can give your Skeleton Warriors like an extra +5 on their attack defense, they're up to 27 defense. That's like, the Stormmen are barely above base hit chance, right? When fighting against Skeleton Warriors, a unit that's a third of their cost. So, yeah, just a sort of a small thing to consider. It's really not much. Like, you could literally cut one of these Skeleton Warriors and bring a Corpse Cart, like one of the basic ones, and that would give you some pretty significant benefit, especially when fighting in a blob like this, because you can hit all of your units at the same time. We'll fast forward as Adam continues to fly around in circles, uses his Breath Attack very well, feeding zombies one by one. Might seem a little bit boring, but this is the very patient way to play this, you know, since you don't have like a Mortis engine or a lot of really strong blob passive healing like what I would take. Typically in a build like this, I've taken Kemmler, like I summon Krell in the middle of the formation to just cause anarchy. And then Kemmler can just kind of hang around on the periphery, and as long as he's fighting like low DPS like Clan Rats or Storm Vermin, he can provide that area of effect healing and melee attack buff basically the entire time. But here, Adam playing a lot more patiently because of that sort of lack of passive healing. He doesn't have quite as much forgiveness, and a nasty dreaded 13 from Random Nix is actually going to pull up the Sword and Shield version of the Storm Vermin. Not a lot of people know this, but you can overcast that spell basically for free. I don't think there's even a miscast chance on it. And you can pull up, it's basically just do you want the Spear, or do you want the Halberd, or Sword and Shield, Storm Vermin? And again, I don't think there's any cost in terms of Winds of Magic difference. I'd have to double check that, but... with the 1,100, I think, really, I thought it was 200 points more expensive than the regular Warp Lightning, but I guess not. Okay, still, though, pretty good value. And even still, the Skaven are holding out quite well. Like, you can see the Vargulfs, once they start to get surrounded by all this anti-large infantry, and, like, the Chieftain, I haven't really talked about him. He's on foot, though, and on foot, he is anti-large AP, you know, very cheap anti-large AP single entity, and if Adam were to try to snipe the Grace here, he'd provide... no, he doesn't actually have the power grab ability, so, okay, so never mind that. But the Black Knights here, taking their time, they definitely should have probably come in and started to side and rear charge a lot of these different pockets. Like, again, you have an opening right here, you could charge these Warp Branders, you have an opening over here, you could come rear charge these Sword and Shield Storm Vermin, you could rear charge these Clan Rats right here by attacking through this pocket. So, like, yes, these Storm Vermin are in a good position to just kind of zone you from this area, but that doesn't mean you couldn't try and get in here and find some gaps with those Black Knights, but at the same time, holding them in tactical reserve also could be pretty strong here. Not wanting to overcommit, but, I mean, the one thing about fighting in a blob like this is you can get a full surround, and because of the nature of the units kind of pathing specifically in one direction, you're bound to get some side or rear charge penalties. So finally, once the main sort of blocking Storm Vermin turns away, they're going to charge in here. Counts are very, very one-dimensional. Yeah, the box build, I kind of feel for the Skaven. Random Nix here, you know, it's a tough matchup for Skaven, I would say, and this is sort of the way, there's one school of thought of this is a way that you can deal with vampire counts. I'm actually of the school of thought of you probably want to take, like, yeah, I can show you guys. I have a specific build in mind that really the only weakness is Blood Knights, I would say. But, yeah, here, I mean, this Unholy Blob is definitely quite unholy, and Adam probably wishing he would have saved at least one of those breath attacks until now, because firing into this little center blob right here would be so juicy. And again, the lack of Corpse Cart's passive healing is coming to tell here, as a lot of these units which have innate regeneration are still getting worn down anyway. So we'll continue to fast forward. As this blob fight ensues, Lamian going to jump straight in there with lightning reflexes. I'm not really sure about that. Going to take some damage from the Plague Pack and from the Chieftain, but Seduction Aura is active to debuff the melee attack. And speed, I guess, doesn't really matter. Mostly just a melee attack, right? But here, this is what needed to happen quite a bit earlier, is to get all of these knights in a full surround like this. Like, this could have happened a good, like, 3 to 4 minutes earlier, and you would have been able to route a lot more Skaven units. Probably would have been able to salvage the second Vargulf and not allow it to get completely crumbled out. But let's see. Lamian so far not dropping, but yeah, at this point, a nice shock charge from the Lamian should be able to clean up most of the Skaven units. You can see only really the Plague Pack and the heroes are holding out at this point, and even the Chieftain is gone, so... How come the Warp Lightning Cannons aren't firing? They're dead. They've been dead the whole time, Way. Wait, did you miss the part at the beginning where he used a zombie summon and a breath attack to one-shot the artillery crew? Yes. Yeah, they do what they have to in hard matchups. It is, you know, it is what it is. I'll talk a little bit about what I think Skaven can do in this matchup. Perhaps that's a little bit maybe unorthodox, but it can perhaps work. Man, look at all this red. The fact that, like, the Grave Guards and the Black Knights wear red, the fact that the Skaven are also wearing red cloth, everyone's covered in blood. It's just a, like, Khorne would be very pleased with this, I'm sure. Just this sea of red. I certainly agree, and sort of the there's a reason that it's referred to as a noob box, right? Like that's a trope within the community for a reason. And you're not totally wrong about that. Random Nix definitely isn't a noob, and he's doing this as a conscious decision because this is a hard matchup, which I understand. But at the same time, I don't think that it's the way to win, necessarily, because, again, you're kind of just playing into the Vampire Count's strengths to a degree there. Lamian definitely got some crazy good value back. The White Kings also very patient with their Scav's Grass. They will pay for themselves, absolutely. Black Knights could have come in a little bit earlier and perhaps done more. But, again, the lack of passive healing, I do think, kind of hurt Adam a little bit in this blob fight. For the Clan Rats, they probably, I would imagine, a lot of overinflated values here. Probably... actually, not even a lot of stuff pays for itself, which is kind of hilarious to me at the end of the day. But yeah, so for Skavens in this matchup, it's tough. There's some things you can do. One thing that's pretty cheesy, but that it's possible to do, is to go with a monster blob of your own, right? So the Warlord, as per tournament rules, the Bonebreaker doesn't count as a rare single entity. So you can do this, for example. You take him, take the Chieftain, right? So that's 2 Rat Ogre Bonebreakers. I would probably keep the Guardian because you're going to want it for both of them. And then you could take Shield of Distraction on him, or you could take it on him. You don't want it on both, though, so just one or the other. And then maybe I'll also take the Verminous Valor here if we have the points for it. But then, what else can you do? Well, because these guys don't count as, monsters for the sake of rare single entities for tournaments, you can come in here and say, let's grab 2 Mutant Rat Ogres, okay? Or, whatever other monsters you choose. I just choose the Mutant Rat Ogres because their combat stats are really good, and this Zap of Contact effect on the Norska's Hellion, if he's fighting a Vampire Lord, is going to be really, really strong. He'll pretty much be able to keep their abilities on cooldown the entire time, because he has a faster than 10-second attack interval, believe it or not. And then you probably want some healing with this, so the Packmaster... You could choose to take him on the Brood Horror if you want to completely fill all your monster slots there. Or you may want to... Oh, I don't have a caster. What am I doing? What am I doing? No. No! Okay, so you need a Plague Priest. Okay, in that case, then, you probably want to go the Furnace, just to give you some additional blob, give you some more numbers here. And then, nice thing is, even with this kind of elite box of Skaven, and you don't have any healing here, which is not exactly ideal, but... I mean, you could option in the Chieftain for a Packmaster, but then you'd have to remove the Furnace from the Plague Priest. Anyway, this is like almost max single entities. But it is 5 single entities max in most tournament rules. 3 single entity monsters, but all of them are like decent enough fighters, and none of them are too expensive either. So there's some benefit there. And then the rest of the build, you kind of do whatever you want. But basically, the idea here is to just keep these guys all fighting in a blob and keep them alive, and they should be able to kill most units like... Any Vampire Lord that wants to drop down and try and snipe your Lord, if the Chieftain and the 2 Rat Ogres are hanging around in a position to respond, he's just going to have a bad time, right? And yes, it'd probably be safer, like, if you wanted to be more competitive, maybe you could come in, flip one of these guys for a Brood Horror so it has some innate healing, right? You can kind of tweak this and customize this. And honestly, if your opponent brings 3 Blood Knights, you might just lose anyway. But, yes. No Council Guard? Well, yes, I mean, with this heavy of a like hero monster force, you definitely would want to take the Council Guard. I agree, absolutely. But yeah, the Hell Pit Abominations are good here. Double Hell Pit is a build that's probably still decently viable in this matchup. You don't see it super often anymore, but the problem with Hell Pits is they're just not super responsive, and they're so weak to Blood Knights. Blood Knights, the thing is, Blood Knights kill most of your army, right? Like, if you just stop and think about it for a little bit, and this is true of a number of armies when fighting the Vampire Counts. You think about, like, Beastmen, think about Skaven, a lot of, like, Wood Elves. Blood Knights counter either hard counter or soft counter almost every single unit on your entire faction, right? So, like, this is the hardest thing to deal with, in my opinion. Granted, I am biased towards heavy cavalry, but if you, like... For this build that I've brought here, Triple Blood Knight would be a problem, for sure. But anything outside of that, and I think I could probably do pretty well with this core. Let me know what you guys think, though. That is going to be it for me for today's stream, though. Thank you all so much for coming out. Had an absolute blast. We had some really, really fun, awesome replays today. So if your replay didn't get casted, I am going to be recording a few videos for about the next week or so later today, so you may still get casted later on. So be sure to stay tuned to the channel for more content. Thank you all so much for coming out. It's been a blast. Have a good day. Bye-bye.